My precious one, I want to begin today by saying something that I need you to actually receive, not just hear, not just nod at and move past, but genuinely take into the deepest place inside you where truth either lands and changes something, or bounces off and leaves you exactly where you were. What I want to say is this: you are not a person who was made to give up. You were made for something far greater than defeat. You were designed with a capacity for endurance that goes beyond what any ordinary resource could sustain, and the reason you have been able to keep going through everything that has tried to stop you is not because you are exceptionally strong on your own. It is because I am in you, and I do not abandon the work I begin. Hold on, not today, not when the journey has been this long, and the cost has already been this high, and the finish line is closer than your exhaustion is letting you believe. The enemy wants nothing more than for you to stop right here, right at the edge of the breakthrough you have been pressing toward, to put down what you have been carrying and walk away just before the harvest comes in. But I am standing in front of you today with a word that cuts through the fog of weariness and says clearly, keep going. Keep going, because the purpose I placed in you before you were born is still in you. Keep going, because the prayers you have prayed over the years have not been lost. Keep going, because the story I am writing through your life is not finished, and you cannot afford to lay down the pen. I chose you. Let me say that again with the full weight it deserves. I chose you. Not a version of you that is finished and polished and has all the answers. Not the you that will exist on the other side of every difficulty currently in front of you. I chose this version of you, the one who is carrying more than feels reasonable, the one who is tired in ways that sleep cannot fix, the one who is still asking questions that have not been answered yet, the one who is pressing forward because something deep inside refuses to completely accept defeat, even when everything on the surface suggests defeat is the only logical conclusion. That is the you I chose, and choosing you was not a mistake. It was not a decision I made with incomplete information that I am now regretting in light of the full picture. I made it with full knowledge of everything that would come, and I stand by it completely. Your name is written in my book, not as a footnote, not as a casual entry. It is written with the care and intentionality of a father who knew every detail of the child he was creating before the child took its first breath. I knew you in the place before time gave language to knowing. I knew the gift structure I was placing inside you, the specific combination of capacities and sensitivities and depths that make you distinctly you. I knew the territory I was sending you into. I knew the people whose lives would be marked by yours, not because you are the most impressive person who ever walked the earth, but because you carry a specific key that fits a specific door that only you can open. And I knew all of this before you ever had the chance to prove or disprove anything about yourself. So when you look at the current state of your life and you feel the gap between where you are and where you thought you would be by now, I need you to hear me on this. That gap is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of process, and process is not the absence of progress. It is the kind of progress that happens underground, where seeds become roots before they become visible growth. The growth has been happening. You have been growing in ways that are not yet visible in your external circumstances, in ways that are happening in the interior landscape of your character, your faith, your capacity to carry more than you ever could before. And that interior growth is the prerequisite for what is coming. You cannot hold what is coming without first being built to contain it. The perseverance you have shown in this season is not wasted. I want to address this directly, because the enemy works very hard to convince you that the long seasons of pressing forward without visible results are simply years lost to struggle with nothing to show for it. That is one of his most effective and most dishonest tools. The truth is that every day of faithful pressing forward, even when the pressing forward was quiet and unspectacular and no one was watching, and it produced nothing immediately visible, every single one of those days was building something in you that cannot be built any other way. Endurance is not a characteristic that can be given to you as a gift. It has to be formed through the actual experience of enduring. Patience cannot be downloaded. It is grown through the lived reality of waiting. Faith that holds in the storm is not the same as faith that has never been in the storm. You have been in the storm, and what is being formed in you through that experience is going to carry you and carry others through you for the rest of your life. Let me go back even further to the place before you were formed in your mother's womb, before your parents met, before any of the circumstances that shaped your particular life had taken shape. In that place, in the eternal reality that precedes all of time, I was already thinking about you. The love I have for you didn't begin when you first reached out to me. It didn't begin when you first heard my name. It was there before any of that. A settled and certain love that was determined before the creation had its first morning. A love that has been pursuing you through every chapter of your story, including the ones you are most embarrassed about, the ones you have hidden from every other human eye, the ones you have barely been willing to look at yourself. There has never been a moment when that love was absent. There has never been a season when it withdrew. Even in the seasons when I seemed silent, when the distance felt unbearable, when you genuinely wondered whether I was listening, I was there, present in ways that were hidden from your sight, but not absent from reality. Your doubts have not driven me away. This matters because I know the doubt has been real, not manufactured doubt, not casual philosophical questioning, but the raw and genuine doubt that comes from having prayed and believed and pressed forward and then watched things not work out the way you asked them to. The doubt that comes from loss that does not make sense. The doubt that comes from watching good people suffer and wondering where I am in any of it. I understand that doubt. I am not frightened by it, not put off by it, not withdrawing from you because of it. Doubt that comes from genuine engagement with real experience is not the opposite of faith. It is the wrestling match that faith sometimes needs to go through in order to become something deeper than certainty based on easy circumstances. Faith that can stand in the doubt, that can say, even when I cannot feel you, I choose to believe you are there, is the kind of faith that reshapes the world. That is the faith being built in you. I see what you carry into every day that you show up. I see the weight on your shoulders when you rise. I see the thoughts that circle before your feet touch the floor. I see the private conversation you have with yourself about whether today will be different, whether something will shift, whether the particular pressure you are under will ease at all. And then I see you get up anyway. I see you engage with your life anyway. I see you show up in your relationships and your responsibilities and your commitments, even when showing up costs you something that you are not sure you have left to spend. And I want to say clearly, what I see when I watch that is not weakness. It is bravery of the most genuine kind, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that does not require an audience, the kind that just keeps going because something inside refuses to accept that giving up is the answer. You are braver than you believe. I need you to sit with that, because there is a voice in your head that has a running list of all the ways you have failed to live up to some standard of courage, all the times you chose the less hard road when a harder one might have been more right, all the moments of fear that felt like weakness, and that voice is not an accurate narrator. The real measure of courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward in spite of the fear. And you have been making that choice over and over in ways that are not dramatic and visible, but that are genuinely costly and genuinely real. Now I want to talk to you about the wounds, not to open them, but to reframe what they mean, because the way you carry them is shaping everything, including how you move forward and how fully you receive what I am trying to give you. The wounds are real. I am not dismissing the reality of what happened, of what was said or done or left undone, of the ways you were broken by experiences that should not have broken you, by people who should have protected you, by circumstances that were genuinely unfair. I am not asking you to manufacture a peace about that. Real pain deserves to be acknowledged as real pain. But what I want to offer you is a new way of understanding what those wounds have produced. Because in my hands, in the hands of a God who redeems and restores, nothing is wasted. Not one tear, not one night of confusion, not one moment of genuine agony. Every single hard thing that has entered your life has passed through my hands before it reached you. Not because I orchestrated the harm, not because I sent the betrayal or the loss or the failure your way as punishment or as some kind of test with no concern for the cost, but because I am the one who can take what was intended to destroy you and use it to build you into something that the untested version of you could never have been. Your wounds carry information that no other education could give. They gave you access to depths of compassion that comfortable people simply do not have. They gave you a fluency in the language of human pain that will make you capable of reaching people who need exactly what you carry. The marks of survival on you are not your story. They are your proof. Proof that you went into something that tried to end you and you came out the other side. Proof that the love I have for you does not depend on whether life cooperates with your plans. Proof that purpose is more stubborn than pain, that the calling I placed on your life is more durable than the things that tried to silence it. The fear that has been operating underneath so much of what you feel. Not the surface fears, the practical ones with specific names and shapes, but the deeper fear that runs beneath all of them. The fear that at some level you are not actually enough, that the people who have left have seen something real in you that justified their leaving. That the closed doors were closed because you genuinely were not qualified to walk through them. That the prayers that went unanswered because something about you failed to meet the criteria. That the gap between the life you were meant to have and the life you have been living is somehow a measure of your fundamental inadequacy. That fear is not from me. That fear is the enemy's most persistent and most personal attack because it targets not just your circumstances, but your identity. And identity is the battlefield that matters most, because how you see yourself determines how you move, what you reach for, what you believe you deserve, how fully you receive what I am trying to give you. So let me speak into that fear right now with the truth of what I know about you. You are not inadequate. You are not disqualified. You are not somehow less than what is needed for the life I planned for you before you were born. The version of you that I see, the whole and complete picture that I hold, is not diminished by the parts that are still in process, not lesser because of the chapters that have been hard, not undermined by the questions that remain unanswered. You are exactly the person I chose for the purpose I have for you. And my choosing was not naive. It was not based on incomplete information. It was rooted in a knowledge of you that is more complete than your knowledge of yourself, and it stands. There is so much ahead of you. I want you to hear this and let it actually reach past the weariness and the protective numbness that long difficulty sometimes produces. The chapters ahead of you are not written yet. The harvest that belongs to the seeds you have been planting in tears and prayers and faithful forward movement is not yet visible in your life, but it is coming. The doors that are relevant to your purpose and your provision have not all been opened yet. The relationships that are assigned to your next season have not all arrived yet. The clarity about direction and calling and next steps that you have been asking me for is being prepared and will become visible as you need it. The life that is ahead of you is not a diminished version of the life you hoped for. It is, in some ways that are not yet visible, better than what you currently have the imagination to hope for. I am your provider, not as a concept, not as a theological category, but as a living present reality in your specific life. I know what is running low. I know what has been stretched thin. I know the places where the numbers do not add up, and the practical concerns are real, and the wondering about what comes next has been keeping you awake. And I am not viewing that situation with the detached distance of someone who has plenty and is watching you struggle from a position of abundance that is none of your concern. I am present in it with you, and I am moving in the invisible dimensions of your situation, arranging things that will become visible as provision, as opened doors, as unexpected solutions that carry the unmistakable mark of my involvement. I am restoring your family. I want to speak to what you carry about the people you love, the relationships that have been broken or bent or complicated, the ones you pray for in the quiet spaces when no one else is listening. I have not forgotten your family. I am not indifferent to their situations. I am at work in every life that is connected to yours in ways that are more complex and more careful than any single answer to a single prayer could capture. The person you have been praying for who seems far from any breakthrough, who seems to be going in the wrong direction, who has made choices that have broken something in your heart, I see them too. I love them too, and my love for them is working in their life in ways that are not yet visible. Keep praying for them. Do not let the length of the waiting convince you that the praying is not working. Prayer is not a transaction where a certain amount of input produces a guaranteed and timely output. Prayer is a participation in the work I am doing, an alignment of your will with mine, a way of maintaining the connection that keeps you in the flow of what I am doing in and around the people you love. Every prayer you have prayed for your family has reached me, every single one, and I am weaving the answers into the fabric of events in ways that will, in time, become undeniably clear. Now, let me speak about the moment you almost gave up, the specific moment, not the dozens of smaller moments of discouragement that you have moved through, but the one that was the most serious, the one where the calculation genuinely came close to tipping towards stopping entirely. You know which moment I mean. You were there, and I was there too. What you may not have been able to see from inside that moment was what I was doing in it. I was doing something that I could only do in exactly that kind of moment. I was building the foundation of a faith that does not depend on favorable circumstances. I was creating in you a kind of trust that cannot be manufactured by any other means. The faith that says even here, even now, even in this, you are still God and you are still good is the most powerful kind of faith there is, and it could only be born in the exact kind of moment you were in. You did not give up in that moment. That was not small. That was a choice that echoed through dimensions you cannot yet see, that shifted things in the invisible realm, that demonstrated something about who you are and about the grace that is working in you that the enemy had not anticipated. He thought that was the moment. He was wrong, and the fact that you are still here, still listening, still reaching, is the proof that he miscalculated. You are still standing, and I am still with you. Let me now speak directly to the practical concerns, the ones that feel less spiritual and more immediate and more urgent, the financial pressure, the health worry, the relational strain, the professional uncertainty, the question of direction that is still sitting unanswered. I am not asking you to pretend these things are not real. They are real. They are specific and they have weight. But I want to offer you a perspective shift on them that I think will help you carry them differently. None of these situations are outside the scope of my ability to address. None of them is a problem that is too complex for the one who created the universe to navigate. None of them represents a limit that my love for you cannot reach past. Every single practical concern you have is fully within my awareness and fully within my capacity to address. And addressing them is something I am actively working on in the specific details of your specific life right now. What I'm asking you to do is not to pretend the concerns do not exist. It is to bring them to me, deliberately and specifically and regularly, and then to release them into my hands rather than picking them back up and carrying them yourself. There is an art to this that takes practice. The prayer that releases a burden and then immediately picks it back up again, that is not a failure of faith. It is a normal part of learning to trust, and I am patient with the learning. I am not frustrated by the repeated bringing. I do not experience it as an indication that you did not really mean the release the first time. I understand that the weight of genuine concerns reasserts itself in human consciousness, and that the practice of trust is the ongoing practice of bringing and releasing until the trust becomes more integrated into your foundation. I am patient with all of it. Bring it to me, again, as many times as it takes. Community plays a vital role in what is ahead, because part of what will sustain you through the journey ahead is not just your relationship with me, but the relationships I am building for you with other people who are designed to walk alongside you. You were not built for isolation. The strength you show in facing difficulty alone is genuine, but it was never my design for you to face everything by yourself. I am bringing people into your life who are specifically assigned to your story. Not generic encouragers who speak in platitudes, people who have access to something real that you need, people whose presence will do something specific in your world. Some of them are already in your life and the relationship is about to go deeper. Some of them are coming. Watch for them. Be open. The tendency to protect yourself by keeping people at a distance is understandable given what you have been through, but it will cost you things you cannot afford to miss. The people you are meant to reach are waiting for what is in you, and this is perhaps the most important reason not to give up. It is not just about you. The purpose your life carries is not primarily about your own fulfillment. Though fulfillment is genuinely part of it, it is about the people who need what you specifically carry, the person who will avoid a mistake you made because you shared your story honestly, the person who will find their way back to me because you were present and genuine in a moment when they needed someone to be, the person who will take the risk of believing again because they watched you believe and keep going and not give up even when giving up looked reasonable. Those people are real. They are coming. Some of them are already in your life. And the version of you that pressed through, that did not give up, that kept going even in the hard seasons, is the version of you that has access to what they need. you have more impact than you know. The ripple effects of your faithfulness extend far beyond what you can see from where you are standing. The choice you made yesterday to press forward rather than quit sent a wave through a relational network that you may never fully trace. The prayer you prayed last week for someone else, in a moment when your own situation was not comfortable, released something in the invisible realm that is still moving. The courage you showed in a conversation that was difficult gave someone watching you permission to be brave in their own situation. You are not living in isolation from the people around you. You are part of an interconnected story, and the way you live your part is shaping things you cannot currently see. Stay the course, because you are closer than you think to the place where the shift happens, where the seeds break through the surface, where the things I have been working on in the hidden places become visible in your life and in the lives of the people around you. The farmer who quits plowing 3 days before the harvest arrives loses the harvest. Do not be that farmer. Keep going. One more day, one more prayer, one more act of faithfulness. One more choice to believe even when the evidence for believing is not the kind your eyes can verify. Your scars are not your story. They are your proof. Proof that the fire came and you are still here. Proof that the love that holds you is stronger than anything that has tried to undo you. Proof that purpose is more durable than pain. And in the days that are coming, those scars will carry a testimony that no words alone could carry, a visible record of the faithfulness of the God who does not abandon his children in their hardest moments. I am proud of you. Not in the way that approval-based pride works, not pride that is contingent on your performance or your outcomes or your consistency, but the deep and settled pride of a father who watches his child press through impossible things and sees who they are becoming in the pressing. I am proud of the faithfulness. I am proud of the getting up. I am proud of the choosing to believe even when believing is hard. I am proud of the love you continue to give even when you are running low. I see all of it, and I am moved by it, and I am with you in it. The victory is already yours. This is not a promise for the distant future. It is a present reality that has not yet become fully visible in your life. I have already won the battle. What you are walking through is not the final word. It is the middle of a story whose ending I have already secured. The enemy's attacks are real, but they are not final. The difficulty is real, but it is not permanent. The questions are real, but they will not remain unanswered forever. I have gone before you into every situation you will face, and I have made a way through it. And what you experience as the struggle of pressing forward is actually the experience of walking through a prepared path in territory that has already been won. Keep your eyes on me, not on the circumstances, not on what the circumstances seem to imply about what is possible or impossible, not on the track record of previous attempts that did not produce the result you were hoping for, not on the voices around you that are invested in the story of limitation because limitation is all they know. Keep your eyes on me, on my faithfulness, on my track record through the full history of your life, including all the chapters before this one where I brought you through things that felt unsurvivable. On the character of the God who loves you, who has been faithful every single time you needed him, even when you could not feel his presence, who does not abandon his children in the middle of the process. I am not finished with you. The assignment is not complete. The story is not at its end. And the days ahead carry a weight of possibility that the difficulty of the current moment is not equipped to erase. No matter how heavy the current moment feels, stand up. Keep going. Believe one more time. Trust me with what you cannot see, and watch what I do with the faithfulness you have been offering me through this long and costly season. The harvest is coming. The breakthrough is nearer than it appears. The new chapter is ready to open, and I am here, steady and faithful and completely invested in your story, walking with you through every step that leads to it. Let me take a moment to speak to the part of you that has been keeping score. The internal ledger where you track every unanswered prayer, every expectation that did not materialize, every promise that seems to have been made to other people while your situation remained unchanged. I understand why that ledger exists. When you have hoped for something genuinely and the hoping did not produce the result, the mind creates an accord as a form of protection, a way of managing future disappointment by remembering past ones. But that ledger is costing you something significant. It is costing you the capacity to receive what I am doing right now in your life, because the ledger creates a filter that only allows through things that match its categories, and what I am doing often arrives in forms that do not match what you were expecting. Put down the ledger, not because the record is false, not because the unanswered prayers were not real, not because the disappointments did not happen, but because the ledger is keeping you in conversation with what was, instead of in openness to what is and what is coming. The grief over what did not happen the way you hoped is legitimate, and I honor it, but grief that has been fully processed releases its grip and becomes memory rather than governor. What I am asking for is not the pretending away of real losses. It is the willingness to stop letting those losses define the limits of what is possible going forward. There are things I am doing in your life right now that the ledger cannot see. There are answers being assembled in forms you did not request because the forms you requested were not actually the best containers for what you needed. There are doors being opened in directions your attention has not yet turned because you have been focused on the doors that stayed closed. There are people already positioned in your path who are going to do something significant in your story. People you have not yet met, or people you know, but have not yet understood the significance of. The activity in your life is far greater than what is currently visible to you, and if you could see what I see, from the perspective that holds the full picture rather than the chapter-by-chapter view that human perception is limited to, you would not be worried. You would be in awe. There is a kind of exhaustion worth addressing now, the specific kind that comes not from a single hard day, but from a long accumulation of hard days, the kind that settles into the bones and does not respond to a single night of rest, the kind that is present even in the moments when circumstances are not immediately demanding. That fatigue is real, and I acknowledge it fully. You have been running a long race, and the kind of tired you feel is the kind that a long race produces. But here's what I want you to know about where you are in the race. You are not at the beginning, where everything still requires the freshest energy. You are not even in the middle, where the demands are still high and the finish line is still far away. You are in the late stages, where the finish line is closer than it looks from the angle you are viewing it at. And what I know about late-stage runners, people who have pressed through the long middle and are nearing the end without fully knowing it, is that they often feel the worst just before the breakthrough. The exhaustion peaks right before the finish line comes into view. Do not let the peak exhaustion convince you to stop. You are further along than you feel. Let me speak to the relationships that have broken in this season, because the interpersonal losses have been some of the heaviest things you have carried. The people who were supposed to be there and were not. The ones who said they would stay and then left. The ones whose leaving felt like a verdict about your worth rather than simply a movement in their own journey. Those losses were real. The grief about them is appropriate. And I am not asking you to minimize what it cost you when those connections did not hold, but I want to offer you a reframe that I think is true and that I think will help. Not every person who was in your story was assigned to every chapter of your story. Some people are assigned to one chapter. They play their role in that chapter, and then the story moves to the next chapter, and the assignment ends and they move with it, not because they failed, and not because you failed, but because their assignment was complete. The departure of those people was not necessarily a failure of the relationship. It may have been the completion of something that was always designed to be temporary. And the space they're leaving created, while it is real and it hurts and it takes time to adjust to, is space that I am filling or preparing to fill with what the next chapter requires. I do not leave you relationally empty. That is not the design. The isolation you have sometimes felt has not been the permanent state I intend for you. It has been a passage, a transitional space between one relational season and the next. And the relationships that are coming into your life, the ones that are assigned to the chapters ahead, will carry a depth and a mutual recognition that grows in proportion to the depth that this season has developed in you. You cannot have those relationships before you have the depth to receive them. The depth is being formed right now, and the relationships will come. Something needs to be said specifically about the area of your life where you have felt the most stuck, the thing that has not moved no matter how much you have tried to move it, the place where the wall has seemed most solid and most immovable. I want you to know that my ability to move things is not limited by how long they have been stuck. What is stuck to your observation is not stuck to mine. What appears immovable from inside your experience is in motion in the invisible dimension, being worked on with a patience and a precision that time itself cannot rush, but that will become visible exactly when it needs to. The stubbornness of what has not yet moved is not evidence that it will not move. It is often evidence that what is being prepared on the other side of the movement is significant enough to require this particular length of preparation. Trust my timing. I know that is the hardest thing I could ask in a season of long waiting. Trust my timing when everything in you is screaming that the time has already been too long, that there should have been movement by now, that the waiting is producing diminishing returns and beginning to look less like preparation and more like abandonment. I hear all of that. And I'm asking anyway, because my timing is always right, even when it does not look right from inside the human experience of it, because what I am building always requires exactly the time it takes, and because the thing I am building for you is worth the wait, even if you cannot yet see it clearly enough to believe that it is. Stand firm, not at the stuck place, not at the place where the wall has been solid the longest, not at the place where the evidence for breakthrough is the thinnest. Those are exactly the places where the breakthrough happens when it comes, because the breakthrough happens at the thinnest place in the resistance, and the fact that resistance has been the longest and the most stubborn in that particular area is often the indicator that what is on the other side of it is the most significant thing I have been preparing. Press into the hard place. Trust me in the stuck place. Keep showing up at the wall, not with your own strength to break it down, but with your faith, your prayer, your persistence, your refusal to accept that the wall is final. I want to talk about your identity one more time, because I don't want to move past it without pressing on it thoroughly. The most important thing I can change in your life is not your circumstances. It is how you see yourself, because how you see yourself determines how you engage with everything else. The person who knows who they are in me walks through the same difficult circumstances as the person who does not, but they walk through them differently. They bring different resources to the challenges. They interpret the setbacks differently. They recover differently. They receive encouragement differently. They access the kingdom differently. Identity is the most foundational thing, and the enemy knows this, which is why so much of his sustained strategy has been aimed directly at yours. Let me tell you who you are, slowly and deliberately, in a way that I want you to take in, word by word. You are a child of the living God. That is your primary identity, above every other label that has ever been attached to you, above your occupation, your family role, your history, your nationality, your failure record, your success record. Child of the living God. That is what you are first, and most essentially. And children of the living God are not forgotten, not abandoned, not left to face impossible things alone, not denied the provision they need, not destined for defeat. You are an heir. The inheritance of the kingdom is yours, not because you earned it, but because you are a child of the King. You do not have to perform your way into inheritance. Inheritance is received, not achieved. The provision, the protection, the access, the authority, the resources of the kingdom are yours by birthright, not by performance. You live in a world that conditions you to believe that what you receive is proportional to what you produce, and that conditioning runs so deep that it shapes how you relate to me. But the kingdom does not work that way. The kingdom flows from a father to his children because he loves them and because it is his pleasure to give them the kingdom. It is his pleasure to give you the kingdom. Let that settle. You are called. The specific calling I have placed on your life is not a burden that weighs on you from the outside. It is something woven into your very nature, something you are already carrying, something that your heart already knows even when your mind is uncertain. The confusion about direction and purpose that you sometimes feel is not the absence of calling. It is the enemy's smoke that makes it hard to see clearly what is already there. The calling is real, the assignment is specific, and the grace to fulfill it is not something you have to achieve. It is something you grow into as you step forward, and it arrives in proportion to the stepping. You are more than sufficient for what is ahead. I would not call you to something that exceeds my ability to equip you for it. The gap between who you currently are and who the assignment requires you to be is not a gap you are responsible for closing on your own. It is a gap I close through the process, through the very things you are walking through right now. The development is happening. The equipping is ongoing. And when the moment comes that requires the fullness of what has been built in you, you will find that it is there, that I have been faithful to complete the work I began, that you are indeed sufficient not in your own resources, but in mine. You are not alone. I want this to land in the deepest place, because the feeling of aloneness has been one of the most persistent companions in this difficult season, and the feeling is real even when the reality is different. The feeling says that no one truly understands. No one is truly with you in the deepest place of what you are carrying, and that the God who is supposed to be present is somewhere at a comfortable distance, watching, but not actually inside the weight with you. The feeling is wrong. I am not at a comfortable distance. I am not watching from outside. I am inside every single moment of what you are carrying, present in the weight of it, present in the confusion of it, present in the exhaustion of it, present in the doubt of it, as close as your own breathing, as near as your own heartbeat. The loneliness does not have to be your permanent address. It is a season, and like all seasons, it will shift. And in the shifting, what replaces the loneliness will be more genuine and more deeply satisfying than what was there before, because the depth that the loneliness developed in you creates a capacity for connection that more comfortable people simply do not have access to. One more thing before I close. I want to speak about the future, not in vague and generic terms, but in the specific territory of hope that I want to reestablish in your heart, because hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is the confidence in things that are not yet visible, rooted in the character of the God who has never once failed to be faithful. And the future I am preparing for you deserves to be hoped for with that kind of confidence. The season of breakthrough is coming, not as a distant possibility, but as an approaching reality. The walls that have been solid are going to give way. The doors that have been shut are going to open. The provision that has been strained is going to shift into sufficiency and then into abundance. The relationships that have been strained or broken or absent are going to be restored or replaced with something genuinely better. The clarity about direction that has felt elusive is going to become available. The strength that has felt depleted is going to be replenished. The joy that has felt distant is going to return, not as a manufactured emotion, but as a deep settledness that comes from knowing you are held and loved and not forgotten. This is what is ahead, not because everything is going to be perfect or easy or free from the normal challenges of human life, but because you are in the hands of a God who is good, who does not fail, who does not abandon, who keeps his promises, and whose love for you is too committed and too specific to leave you in the middle of the hard without bringing you through to the other side. Keep going, keep believing, keep showing up, and trust me with what you cannot yet see. I want to go even deeper now into what I know about what you have been through in this season, because there is something important I need to say about the way hardship works in the economy of the kingdom, something that I think will reframe the entire experience for you and give you new eyes to look at everything that has felt like loss. When something is taken from you, when something breaks, when something ends that you did not want to end, the immediate experience is one of subtraction. The ledger shows a loss. Something that was present is now absent. Something that was working is now broken. Something that was secure is now uncertain. And the natural human response to subtraction is grief, and then the fear that the subtraction is permanent, and then the harder fear that the subtraction means something negative about you, that you deserve to lose it, that you are not enough to keep it, that the universe or God or the fates have rendered a judgment about your worth in the form of the thing that was taken. But in the economy of the kingdom, subtraction is not always subtraction. Sometimes what looks like loss is actually clearing. Sometimes what is removed not as punishment but as preparation. Sometimes the thing that broke needed to break, not because it was bad, but because it was not built for what is coming, because the future requires something structurally different than what the past provided, because the new wine cannot go into old wineskins, and I have new wine prepared for you. What was taken was not the final thing. The clearing is not the destination. The clearing is the preparation for what is being built in its place. I want you to think about the things you have lost in this season and ask yourself honestly and gently whether the things that were there were actually everything you needed them to be. Not because everything that was lost deserved to be lost, but because sometimes the thing we grieve most was already limited, already constraining, already holding us in a space that was smaller than the space we were designed to inhabit. And the grief is real, absolutely real, but underneath the grief is sometimes a quiet recognition that what is possible now that the limitation is gone is larger than what was possible with the limitation in place. I am not asking you to be grateful for pain. I am asking you to be curious about what the clearing is making room for, to look past the grief at the space the grief has revealed, to be willing to ask me what I am building in the place where something was removed, because I am building something there, always. I do not create vacancies without having an intention for the space. The empty places in your life are not evidence of my indifference. They are construction sites. Let me be even more specific. I know the thing you are holding right now as you listen to these words, the specific grief, the specific uncertainty, the specific prayer that seems to have no answer. I know what it is. I know how long you have been carrying it. I know what it has cost you to keep carrying it with as much grace as you have managed to carry it. And I want to say something directly into it, not around it, not in general terms that apply to someone else's situation, but into yours. What you are carrying is not bigger than me. The specific and named thing that feels like it might actually break you if it does not resolve soon, the thing that you have brought to me so many times that you are almost embarrassed to bring it again, that thing is not outside the scope of my ability to address. It is not a situation that exceeds my capacity to work in. It is not a problem for which there is no solution in me. It is not a prayer that has been filed away unanswered because of some inadequacy in you or some limitation in my willingness to respond. It is a situation I am actively working in the full dimension of my power and my love, and the response is coming. Do not stop bringing it to me. Do not let the length of the wait convince you that I am not listening or not working. Some things take longer, not because I am withholding, but because the full answer requires a complexity of preparation that cannot be rushed without compromising the quality of the result. A house that is built in 3 days cannot be trusted to hold in the same way as a house that is built carefully over the right amount of time. I am building something in your situation that is designed to hold, designed to last, designed to carry not just you, but the people who will need what your story produces. The time it is taking is not waste. It is investment, and in the waiting, I am not leaving you without provision for the waiting itself. I am with you in it. The peace that passes understanding, the kind that makes no sense given the circumstances you are in, that peace is available to you right now. It is not a reward for having successfully resolved the anxiety. It is a gift I give in the middle of the circumstances that would otherwise produce anxiety, as evidence that my presence is real and that I am with you in the middle and not just at the end. Receive the peace. It is offered right now, in this moment, not as a feeling you generate, but as a gift you receive. Let the anxious circling of your thoughts slow down just enough to feel the presence that is already with you, that has been with you through this entire season, that is not going anywhere. I want to speak about courage now, in a different dimension than the courage I mentioned earlier. Not just the courage of pressing forward when you are tired, but the courage of believing big things about your future when the evidence in the present does not obviously support them. This is perhaps the most demanding kind of courage, the courage of the imagination, the willingness to hold in your mind and heart a picture of a future that is genuinely good, genuinely abundant, genuinely full of the things your heart most longs for, in the face of present circumstances that do not yet reflect that picture. The imagination is a spiritual faculty. What you can genuinely envision, rooted in faith and not just wishful thinking, has a shaping effect on what you are able to receive and how you are able to move toward it. The person who cannot imagine a genuinely good future has a much harder time participating in the preparation for that future, because the preparation requires steps towards something that is not yet visible. If you cannot hold the image of it, you will not recognize the steps that lead to it. Give yourself permission to imagine a genuinely good future, not a perfect future, not a utopia free from all difficulty, but a future where the things that matter most to you are present and working, where the relationships are genuine and life-giving, where the provision is sufficient and often more than sufficient, where the purpose is clear and the contribution is meaningful, where the peace is real and the joy has depth, where the hard things of this season are in the past and what they built in you is visible in the life you are now living. Give yourself permission to see that, to hold it, to let it be what you are walking toward, because you will walk toward what you can see, and I want to help you see it. Let me speak now about the way forward, the practical geography of the next steps, because I know that spiritual encouragement without any sense of direction can feel good in the moment and leave you in the same place when it fades. I am not going to give you a specific step-by-step plan right now, not because I do not have one, but because the specific steps need to be walked out in the specific context of your life with the guidance of my Spirit, and that guidance is available to you in real time as you need it. But I can tell you the general direction. Move toward, not away from. Move toward the people you love, even when love is risky. Move toward the calling, even when the calling is unclear and the path is not fully lit. Move toward me, even when the approach feels uncertain or halting or inadequate. Moving toward something, even imperfectly, even slowly, even with a lot of stumbling along the way, produces forward progress. Moving away from the risky things, away from the uncertain things, away from the places where failure is possible, produces safety that gradually becomes a smaller and smaller box, a life that is technically safe, but that never reaches the territory where the purpose lives. Move toward. Let the love be risky. Let the reaching for the calling be imperfect. Let the approach to me be halting and doubt-filled if it must be, as long as it is still an approach. I am not grading the quality of the movement. I am measuring the direction of the heart, and the heart that keeps orienting toward me, even with all its questions and its inconsistencies and its cycles of faith and doubt. That heart is going in the right direction. Keep your heart oriented toward me and let me take care of the rest. Let me speak to the internal critic that you carry. The voice that runs commentary on everything you do, that notes every mistake, that compares your performance to some impossible standard, that is rarely satisfied and never quiet. I know that voice. It has been loud in this season, and I want to speak directly about where it gets its material. The internal critic gets its material from the lie that your value is a function of your performance, from the belief that you are acceptable when you perform well and unacceptable when you do not. From the internalized voices of people who treated you as though your worth was conditional on your usefulness or your achievement or your compliance. From a theology that emphasizes my judgment more than my love and produces a relationship with me that is fundamentally anxious rather than fundamentally secure. All of that material is false, and the critic that is built from false material is not a voice of genuine wisdom. It is a voice of wound. You can begin to practice not believing it, not arguing with it, not trying to silence it through performance, but simply recognizing it as the wound speaking and choosing to respond to it with what I actually say. When the critic says, "You're not enough," I say you are chosen. When the critic says you have made too many mistakes, I say my grace is more than sufficient. When the critic says you are unworthy of the good things ahead, I say you are an heir of the kingdom, and the good things ahead belong to you, not because you earned them, but because you are mine. Let the critics speak, and let my voice be louder. Practice this until it becomes more natural than what currently feels natural. I am reshaping you, not to make you more like someone else's version of what you should be. To make you more fully yourself, the truest and most whole version of the person I created. The pruning I have been doing in this season has been the removal of things that were not you. things that attached themselves to your identity from outside sources, things that limited you and bent you away from your actual design. What is emerging through the process, what is becoming visible as the pruning removes what was not genuinely you, is the person I had in mind from the beginning. And that person is extraordinary, not in the eyes of the world necessarily, not in the way that generates external validation or fame or the recognition of crowds, extraordinary in the way that actually matters, in depth, in genuineness, in the specific and unrepeatable contribution that only you can make. You are not made to be like anyone else. You are made to be the fullest and most complete version of yourself. And what I am doing in you right now is the work of that becoming, the careful and often painful work of removing what is not you, so that what is you can breathe and grow and fully inhabit the space I designed for it. Trust the process even when it hurts. The pruning is not punishment. It is the care of a gardener who wants the fullest and most fruitful expression of what was planted. Your scars are not your story. They are your proof. Proof that you went through something that tried to end you, and you came out the other side still standing, still reaching, still choosing to believe. Proof that purpose is more stubborn than pain. Proof that the love I have for you does not depend on whether life cooperates with your expectations, or whether you perform well enough, or whether the circumstances around you are favorable. The love is constant. The purpose is secure. The future is full. And you are the exact person I chose for every bit of it. Press through, not today, not this close to the breakthrough, not when the harvest that belongs to your persistence and your faithfulness is closer than it has ever been before. Keep going. One more day, one more prayer, one more act of trust, one more step forward into what you cannot yet see but that I have already prepared. I am with you. I have always been with you. I will always be with you. And everything I am, which is more than enough for everything you face, is at work right now on your behalf. Keep going. I love you. I love you. Without condition, without limit, without reservation, without end. You are mine. You are chosen. You are held. And you are going to make it through this. There is something that often gets avoided in conversations about faith and courage because it feels too vulnerable. The grief of the long wait, because you have been waiting. Not for a short season with a visible end. You have been in a waiting that has gone on longer than you prepared for, longer than you prayed it would, longer than the faith language around you seemed to suggest was normal or appropriate. And the waiting itself has been a kind of suffering that does not always get named as suffering because it is not as dramatic as acute crisis. It is quieter than that. It is the daily resumption of hope and the daily encounter with not yet. It is the waking up and remembering where things still stand and the choosing to continue anyway. That is a real kind of hard. And I see it. I want to say something about the waiting that I think will reframe it in a way that helps. The waiting is not emptiness. I know it feels that way sometimes. It feels like the active life of blessing is happening on the other side of a glass partition that you can see through, but cannot pass through yet. It feels like the movement is happening everywhere else but in the specific territory that matters most to you. But the waiting is not emptiness. The waiting is the season in which I do some of my most essential work. Not all growth happens in the spring when the fruit is visible. Some of the most critical growth happens in winter, underground in the root system, where no one can see it and nothing appears to be happening. What I am doing in you during this season of waiting is not nothing. It is foundation work. It is the kind of work that will be completely invisible until the day it becomes the thing that holds everything else up. the character being forged in the waiting, the deepened trust, the refined sense of what is truly essential, the capacity for genuine compassion that only comes from having genuinely needed compassion yourself, the stripped away dependencies on things that felt essential but were not. All of this is real and valuable and irreplaceable. None of it could have been produced by a faster season. All of it is being produced by this one. I want to speak about the prayers that seemed unanswered, because I know they are there. The ones you prayed with genuine faith and genuine expectation and genuine willingness to receive the answer, and then the answer did not come in the form or the timing you were hoping for. The illness that did not heal the way you asked. The relationship that did not restore when you believed it would. The provision that did not arrive when the need was most acute. The door that did not open when you stood in front of it with everything ready. Those are real. The pain of those unanswered prayers is real, and I am not going to offer you a simple explanation that erases the pain. What I will offer you is this: no prayer is truly unanswered. Every prayer reaches me. Every prayer enters into the realm of my response. But my responses are not always immediate and not always in the specific form requested, because I see things you cannot see from where you are standing. I see the implications of every possible answer. I see the connections between this situation and that situation, the way that an answer here affects the landscape there, the way that timing matters not just for the immediate situation, but for the whole arc of the story I am writing through your life. What looked like unanswered was often differently timed than requested. What looked like no was often not yet, or not this, but something better, or not this, because what is actually coming is more than what was asked for. I am asking you to trust me with the unanswered ones, to leave them in my hands, to believe that they are being held and attended to even when the answer is not visible. This is not passive resignation. This is the active faith of believing in my character when the circumstances do not provide the obvious evidence. This is the trust that says, I know who you are and I trust what you do even when I do not understand it. That kind of trust is the highest form of faith, and it is the kind I am developing in you through exactly this kind of season. There is strength available to you that you have not fully accessed. There are resources in the spiritual realm for what you are going through that you have not fully tapped. I am not talking about some secret formula or some higher level of spiritual achievement. I am talking about the straightforward reality that there is strength available to you beyond your own natural resources, and the way to access it is simpler than you might think. When you are exhausted and the strength is genuinely low, do not try to manufacture what is not there. Come to me instead. Come with the exact measure of what you have, which might be very little, and let me be what makes up the difference. My grace is sufficient. Not in the sense that it makes everything comfortable or removes the hard thing, in the sense that there is enough grace available for exactly what is in front of you, provided one moment at a time, renewed one day at a time, exactly sufficient for the specific demands of the specific day you are in. The exchange I am inviting you into is, give me your weakness and receive my strength. Not as a transaction where you trade one thing for another, but as the natural operation of a relationship where the greater one in the relationship carries the things that are beyond the capacity of the lesser. You are not meant to carry what you have been carrying by yourself. Some of what is pressing on you was never supposed to be on your shoulders. Some of what you have been holding was meant to be in my hands. The invitation is to release what is beyond your capacity to carry and to take up instead what I am giving. which is not the heavy burden of managing outcomes you cannot control, but the lighter yoke of faithfulness within your actual sphere, trust for everything outside it, and my strength for everything that faithfulness requires. Let me also speak about the forgiveness that still needs to happen, not as a rebuke, but as an invitation, because I know that carrying unforgiveness is costing you things you cannot afford. There are people in your story who wronged you. Some of them have never acknowledged it. Some of them may never acknowledge it. Some of them may not be in your life anymore, and the opportunity for direct reconciliation may not exist. And yet the wound is still present. The record is still being kept in some chamber of your heart, and the ongoing cost of maintaining the case against them is extracting something from you that you need for the journey forward. Forgiveness does not mean the wrong was acceptable. It does not mean it did not hurt. It does not mean you are required to re-enter a relationship that was damaging. It does not mean you forget what happened or pretend it was not real. Forgiveness is the decision to release the debt, to stop requiring from the person something they cannot give you, the perfect acknowledgement, the perfect apology, the restoration of exactly what was lost, to give me the record and trust that justice belongs to me, to free yourself from the position of record keeper because you were never meant to be the judge. The freedom on the other side of forgiveness is real. I have watched people who have carried decades of unforgiveness put it down, and the change in them is immediate and visible. Something in the posture, something in the eyes, something in the way they move through the world after the release. I am not overstating this. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts you can engage in, both for the person who was wronged and for your own interior freedom. Carry forgiveness like a discipline, like a choice you make repeatedly, not once in a dramatic moment, but again and again over time as the feelings of the wound reassert themselves. Because they will. The decision to forgive precedes the feeling of having forgiven. The feeling follows the decision, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, sometimes not fully in this lifetime. But the decision, made in your will with my help, is the thing that matters. And I am here to help you make it, and to make it again, and to make it again after that. Now I want to talk about what faithfulness looks like in the season you are in right now, specifically and practically. Because I know the question beneath the question is often this: what am I supposed to actually do with all of this? And I want to answer that as concretely as I can. Be faithful in the small things, not as a consolation prize for not yet having access to the large things, as the actual discipline that builds the character for the large things. The small acts of obedience and care and presence and faithfulness in the specific responsibilities you currently hold are not the waiting room for real life. They are real life. They are the place where the character is being formed that the larger assignments will require. The faithfulness in the small sphere is itself the evidence of readiness for the larger one. Keep praying, even when it feels like nothing is moving. Even when the words feel thin, even when you are going through the motions more than genuinely engaging, the act of continuing to come is itself a form of faithfulness that I honor. I am not requiring your prayers to be eloquent or consistently fervent. I am asking you to keep showing up, to keep bringing yourself, whatever version of yourself you have on any given day, into the place of connection with me. The habit of prayer, maintained through the dry seasons as well as the full ones, builds something in the long run that seasons of easy, warm engagement cannot build. Stay in community. Do not withdraw from the people around you, even when the temptation to isolate is strong. The tendency to retreat when you are struggling is understandable but costly. The people I have placed in your life are not there only to receive from you in your strong seasons. They are there to give to you in your weak ones. Let them. Be honest enough with at least one or two people to let them see what is actually happening in you. Not to burden everyone with everything, but to let the people who are designed to walk with you actually walk with you rather than a presentation of you. Speak hope over your life. The words you speak about yourself and your situation and your future have more influence over your internal experience than most people realize. I am not asking you to lie to yourself about the difficulty. I am asking you to choose, even in the presence of the difficulty, to speak what I say about what is possible, to say out loud the truths that your feelings might contest, to declare what I have declared over you, even when the declaration feels more like faith than felt reality. Because that is exactly what faith is, choosing the truth that I speak over the story that circumstances seem to be telling. The relationship between your trials and your testimony, because this is one of the things I most want you to understand about the purpose of hard seasons. The testimony of a person who has walked through something genuinely difficult and found me faithful in the middle of it carries a weight that no other kind of testimony carries. When you speak from inside genuine experience of both the hard and the faithful, people hear it differently than they hear the testimony of someone who has only ever known ease. Your credibility as a witness to my faithfulness is being built right now, in this season, by the fact that you are pressing through it and finding me real. Every person you will ever speak to about faith, every person you will ever encourage through a hard season, every person whose life will be marked by the story you carry, will be reached more effectively because you have been where they are. The long season is not wasted. The hard press is not without purpose. What is being formed in you right now is the content of your future ministry, the substance of your future testimony, the depth of compassion and understanding and credibility that will make you uniquely equipped to reach the people who need exactly what you will carry when you come out of this season. Do not give up. Do not stop. Do not let the length of the waiting convince you that the waiting is the whole story. The harvest is coming. The shift is happening. The new chapter is being prepared, and you are going to be there to live it. I am so proud of you. I want to say that clearly one more time before I close this word. I am proud of the faithfulness you have shown in hard circumstances. I am proud of the love you continue to give when you are running on empty. I am proud of the choosing to believe when believing is the harder option. I am proud of the getting up day after day and engaging with the life in front of you, even when the life in front of you is demanding more than you feel you have. I see all of it, every single day, and I am proud of every single day. You are going to make it through this. You are going to come out of this season carrying something that you could not have carried without it. And the version of you that emerges is going to be the version of you that was always possible, but that required this exact kind of formation to bring it into being. The best is ahead. Keep going. Amen. If this message touched your heart and spoke into the place where you needed to hear from God, I want to ask you to do one thing. Share it with someone today. There is a person in your life who is fighting a battle that is wearing them down, someone who needs to hear that their story is not finished and that God has not forgotten them. Send them this. Be the voice that speaks courage into their day. And if this channel has been a source of genuine strength for you, subscribe and turn on the notifications so every word we release reaches you. We are here every day with a message meant for someone who is exactly where you are. We are glad you are here. We will see you in the next one.